Hello and welcome to Hindustan Times. European and African leaders agreed to strengthen trade ties and better tackle irregular migration at the African European Union Summit, which wrapped up on Tuesday. The EU wants to strengthen its influence and secure access to natural resources in Africa, where it is competing with the US, China and Russia as we speak. DW correspondent Chiponda Chimbelu joins us from Berlin. Chiponda, good to have you. Was the summit a success?
Well, some agreements on increasing trade and reducing irregular migration to Europe were, of course, reached. But the verdict on the success of the summit will really depend on whether both the European Union and the African Union deliver on those pledges. Now, the European Union is promising to invest up to 150 billion euros on infrastructure projects in African countries by 2027 through the Global Gateway. Now, the Global Gateway was actually set up to compete with China's Belt and Road Initiative to help countries in the Global South improve their infrastructure. Now, for the EU, this is also a lot about getting access to critical raw materials. That would, of course, include rare earths, copper, cobalt, and lithium.
Also, how crucial is the EU-Africa partnership?
The EU is Africa's top trade partner. A third of the continent's exports come to Europe. In 2023, trade in goods and services reached 467 billion euros, and that is according to data from the EU. And of course, the EU is the leading source of foreign direct investment to Africa. Now, Europe has an interest in Africa's economic and political stability because the impact of many crises there can also be felt here in Europe, especially through irregular migration, which is a polarizing topic. And that is why we heard European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen say that Europe's and Africa's prosperity are connected. That's also because economic progress and political stability in Africa would help reduce the number of irregular migrants to Europe.
All right, Chiponda, what can we expect going forward here on?
A lot will be riding on whether the EU does deliver on its promises and, of course, what other countries like the United States, China, Turkey, or even the Gulf states are doing on the African continent. Now, the EU is trying to emphasize that its projects are greener and protect human rights. And while that may be true, the fact is that we have seen a lack of a very clear strategy for investing in Africa over the last 2 decades. And that is something that has helped China in particular make inroads on the continent. And in recent years, Brussels has, of course, been more focused on the war in Ukraine, which is right at its doorstep. And while that does, of course, directly impact security here in Europe, it's important for the European Union not to lose sight of what is happening on the African continent. And that is, of course, because political and economic stability there do affect the European continent as well.
All right, thanks for that report from Berlin. We'll join you soon.